Good evening. I see that we have a 50-person limit in the room. I hope that's simply for safety and not to keep the public out. I see there's a lot of county people sitting in chairs that I hope the people who are out in the hall who couldn't make the meeting get the opportunity to address council if that's their desire. I don't know if that's the case.
Anyone who wants to address council will get that opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I have some questions and concerns about the budget, and I've come here on numerous occasions about the budget. The budget's flawed. The budget that was presented to council doesn't even have the right account numbers on it. Council needs to look at the budget intently. We're on a new world system. County, those numbers the county's using. How can the council verify that those numbers are even accurate that the manager gave you? The expenditures in the budget are over the revenues by 1.4 million. In your ordinance, it clearly states in the ordinance that that is not the case. In the budget, it is the case. So there's a flaw there. I'm asking council to vote no on this budget tonight. There's a lot of reasons why they should vote no. 8% tax increase. I understand what Mr. McMonagle's saying about the tax increase, but the issue here is not whether the taxpayers are upset with cutting staff. It's the extra that's in the budget that we're trying to continue to fund when there's other things that need to be taken care of first. You don't get rid of county employees that bring your revenues in order to save money so you can do management, consulting, and all the other things. That's not the way you run a railroad. At least that's not the way I would think you do budgets. That's not how I do it at home. If I want to buy a new car, I certainly don't go out and buy a new car if I don't have the money. I wait until I have the money. That's the way it should be run in county government. That's what the people are upset about. It's not the 8% increase and the fact that we think county workers are lazy. I think the fact of the matter is we know that there's a lot of stuff in the budget that needs to be taken out before we lay people off. And unfortunately, that's not being done. Budget transfers by the county manager, there's a lot of problems with that. And I know Mr. Pedri brought that up a couple of months ago. I brought it up when I was a county controller, that the manager should not be allowed to transfer money outside of divisions. That's clear in the charter, it shouldn't happen, and it's happened in November, and nobody said anything to council. The budget transfers that I sent to council a couple of weeks ago regarding the Bureau of Elections, the account number doesn't even match what's in the budget. How could council even verify what the manager is doing when you can't even look at the right account numbers? Transfers to individuals is account number 560 or 590-24, but in the ACS system, of which you guys are approving, it's a different number. How could you even do that? I don't understand. And lastly, to finish my point is, you know, I saw in the paper today where Attorney Pedri said that the county council is on walking a thin line regarding micromanaging the manager. And I'm curious to know in section 1.7 of the professional code of conduct, Mr. Pedri, if you can represent council and the manager at the same time. I don't believe you can do that on those issues. And I think that's a dangerous situation for you to get into. Professional code of conduct says you cannot, when there's a potential for conflict, represent both parties. And I think you need to look at that. And the last question I asked last week about, was there any research done regarding the slander question that Ms. Dobash brought up weeks ago? And I didn't get an answer last week, so I'll ask it again. Did we get an opinion from the solicitor as to what constitutes slander, as Ms. Dobash was accused of a couple weeks ago? Thank you.
Mr. Chesnovitch and Mr. Oldham.
As far as this seating we have here, we were told by numerous people when this started with this room, it could be done to expand this with site and using outside another room with TV, people could be involved. It seems more and more to the public that you're not invited. Now, they can make comments, they can listen out there and make comments on what happens. I mean, this is, you know, how can I explain it? Where do we go with it's our people's charter, it's our government, the transparency. We see all these figures where we're talking about, I can see where McDonald was coming from. We can't, as was made before by, I think the site said, the cut has to come from the top. What about your salaries? What about the manager's salary? What about the misspent money? When we take and we pay $80,000 to a division head, and then we hire somebody to tell that person how to run your department. Doesn't make sense. I don't have any problem paying that money, but you don't get somebody to babysit them and tell them what to do. Walter brings up things about the budget, the fluff, and it gets pushed off. All we get from when we talk to you over and over is, thank you, next, and that's the last time you hear anything from you. I mean, why do we even talk? It's like we vibrate the air. Nobody listens to what we have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Olaf?
Good evening, folks. It's budget time again. One of the things I believe we all learned is from section, I think it's 503B, if my memory serves me properly, in the charter, one of the many of the 11 legs of a budget is a forecast of the current year, which I still haven't found. But in any regard, in the last 2 years, we've really missed the accuracy on that one. And as we've talked around for literally weeks now on what it's going to take to get a bond rating, one of the things that the boards of governors and bond rating organizations look for is what they call financial stability and predictability. What that means is hitting your forecasts, which we have done a woefully terrible job at. I'm going to highly recommend for the one more time that we've got to, as Ms. Houck mentioned, I believe at the last meeting, more frequent financial reviews. Even if you do it monthly, that's going to not be sufficient. You really have to budget monthly. Load up into New World monthly numbers, not annuals, because this percent of annual methodology we found does not work, period. So we have to get to real monthly budgeting, and then I think we'll get somewhere accurate. So that's the key message for this evening. I'm really disappointed that maybe there has been some real work and nobody hasn't got visible, but the questions that I've seen floating all around the emails on the budget doesn't seem to have gotten any traction whatsoever, except for one council member. And I would hope that the probing, as Walter mentioned, begins fast. I also want to thank you. Finally, after months of prodding, I understand that the FY11 financial statements are up on the web. If we're going to put that up, I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Casares?
Here we go again. Starting out, you can't solve the financial problems, then I would suggest you follow Detroit's movement and file for bankruptcy. Get a fresh start, cancel all your debt. Okay? One comment that was in the newspaper was by an urban relative to the road and bridge. All right? I agree with that. Give it back to the borough. By the way, most of the boroughs and townships on the west side of the river take care of their own roads and probably some of their bridges. All right? Give it back. Divorce yourself from that expense. All right? That's a runaway expense. And by the way, you have expenses relative to labor. Okay? You have materials, you have equipment. It's progressive. Do a performa. See what it's going to cost you over the next 4 or 5 years. It's very, very expensive. Right? Give it back. Let the local communities handle that expense. Right? Very progressive. And I agree, he's right. Okay? The other thing was with Ed Brominsky indicated, it was in the newspaper, $329 million. Taxpayers pay that expense that wasn't allowed to be used for tax revenues. Okay? That's Tony Lalou's and his problem. See, that should be straightened out. Wilkes-Barre Chamber of Commerce, every time they come here, they got their hat in the hand. You forgive them $1 million in interest, that could have been used relative to expenses for the county, okay? You've got detectives, get rid of 5 of them. You got 10 detectives, $100,000 each, plus expenses, plus we pay their underwear, and we give them a car. What do you think a car is worth a year to these guys, all right? And they sit over here drinking coffee and eating donuts. All right, the prison, the union, all right, so you have certain regulations relative to the state, but you got a whole bunch of people running around over there in the fresh air playing whatever they play, put them to work. That's free labor, and he knows it, okay? And I hold some of these agencies and the unions, their feet to the fire. Health insurance, all right? Increases participation. By the way, do you know that your taxes, your income tax and certain portions of your insurance are deductible? So if you raise them, they get an extra benefit relative to the income tax, all right? So there's a lot of things that, you could do, all right? The courts, magistrates, we looked at that. 2,500 out here in Trucksville, 1,300 over here in Plain. There should be an equalization relative to the facilities and the expenses relative to administrative costs, right? It's not being done. West Pittston, half of these courtrooms magistrates have, are most of the time are empty. And half of them, maybe 2-3 days a week, all the magistrates are all, that's all they work. 50 grand or 60 grand a year plus benefits. Lawyers, okay? I heard of a lawyer here, all right? Lawyers found a home in a courthouse. They want the benefits. All right, Musto's got a home here. She was a DA, right? 170 grand a year. Now she opens an office, but she wants supplementary income until she gets her business going again because she wants the health benefits and a little income. We know the game. He worked for her before, and now she works for him. The buddy system stinks. Okay? All right? As far as just a comment on the secretary for public defender, I think that's necessary. A little cheaper than a lawyer, but they do more work than the lawyers do. Okay? And you know.
Thank you. Mr. Shire?
Good evening. People in this county are upset. They're upset about a lot of things. They're upset about the possibility of an 8% increase in their taxes when they look at the budget and see the unnecessary things that are still in it. But they're even more upset over the fact that they feel that home rule is a failure. It's actually the best government we could have gotten. I was against it to begin with, but now that I see it and what it can be, I realize it is the best. The problem is the vision is fading. You're the leaders. You're the first elected group to lead the home rule. Good leaders inspire. They elicit the trust and they provide the continued vision. You need to lead by example. Everyone. A budget is a statement of the financial position of administration for a definite period of time based on estimates of expenditures during the period and proposals for financing. A balanced budget is a situation in financial planning or the budgeting process where total revenues are equal to or greater than total expenses, but not where the expenses exceed revenue. I think what has most people upset is the fact that this charter, this home rule that we have, the Constitution of this county, the law of this land right now, is constantly violated, and you, the leaders, allow it. According to the charter, Section 502, county budgets, on or before the 15th of each year, the county manager shall submit to county the proposed county budgets for the ensuing fiscal year. The budget shall provide a complete and balanced financial plan. The budget that was submitted on the 15th was only one part of all the budgets, and it was not balanced. Public inspection, Section 505, says that the summaries are to be published in at least one daily newspaper. general circulation in the county. It was not done. Section 506 on public hearings says that you're to hold at least one public hearing on the proposed budgets no sooner than 7 days and not later than 21, following receipt of the proposed budgets. The actual proposed budgets were received on December 2nd. There was no public hearing after that. Changes in the budget, section 510. At any time during the fiscal year, the county manager may transfer part or all of any unencumbered balance within any division. You all allow them across division. That is your job. The charter says that at any time during the fiscal year, county council may by resolution make transfers of part or all of unencumbered balance from any division to any other division, not the county manager. But you all sit and allow it. Your own ordinance that you've introduced for this budget says the proposed budgets do not cause the total of budget expenditures and other uses in the budget to exceed the total of budgeted revenues and other sources of income plus any unreserved fund balance expected to be used. It's not a balanced budget, but yet in your own ordinance you're saying that it is. And in the section 507 in the approval of budgets, county council may add to, delete from, increase or decrease any item in any of the proposed budgets. And all you're looking at is the summary pages, not the line items in doing something. I have asked many times that a resolution of reprimand be issued for anyone that violates the charter. You do not do it. If you don't do it, if you don't recognize it and follow it, and reprimand the people that violate the charter, then you're part of the problem. This is going to go to court action if you people do not take the proper actions. I am not going to stand by and watch home rule fail because of your fail. You need to follow the rules. I realize that, sir. You need to follow the rules and be the example, not the exceptions. You need to be the leaders you're elected to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who did not?
Thank you. I want to read from a citizen in Ashley who is not here, quoting from a correspondence. Kathy, oppose taxes, yes, but if everything that our taxes are used for keep going up, where is the money going to come from? We need to make absolutely sure we have trimmed all of the waste and cut out all of the frivolous spending first, and then see where we stand. This debt we inherited is a burden that we have to address, but the sins of the past aren't solving the present and future problems we are encountering. More private industry jobs will increase the tax base, and only as a last resort should we raise taxes. So I just wanted to express from one citizen who couldn't attend. And again, although I sound like a broken record, I am going to ask Mr. Bobeck to recuse himself from this budget vote. I believe he should have recused himself from the last two yearly budget votes. And I cite the human service contracts and the community development contracts with his father's company step by step. And I also cite his professional professional relationships with the judicial branch. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bomboy, please.